Delete Law Z continues attacks on military veterans. Calls for all-out ban on veterans serving as police officers. Asserts board game is still coming by the end of the week. Long Island audits covers up a mistake in court. Did he do it, or did the clerk do it? And will an appeals court care? Lane Meyer's fundraising efforts hit a wall on Sunday. Will Tuesday's court hearing kill his chances to raise money from his fans? Plus, we've reached 5,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Thank you. All this and more on this edition of Auditing Insanity. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Auditing Insanity Newscast, powered by ReallyCoolNews. I'm AI Johnny Jones, and I'll be your host tonight for 3 big stories and a thank you as we've reached an important milestone today. Thank you so much for your continued support over the past year. And let's dive right into the news as we ask you to focus on. Long Island audit says filing error is not his fault. YouTube viewers, please click the text link in the description to view the documents related to this article. Sean Paul Long Island audit Reyes returned to the news last week as he made a motion to extend time for his notice of appeal in his previously dismissed federal civil lawsuit against members of the police force in the city of Berwyn, Illinois. This lawsuit was dismissed at the start of the year after the judge granted the defendant's motion for summary judgment. Reyes was suing on the grounds of false arrest, conspiracy, and malicious prosecution. It was partially revived in February when Reyes violated an agreement in the case and aired the depositions of the defendants on his channel. He had been previously granted the right to film the depositions of the defendants in the case, with the caveat that he never publishes those videos to his channel. In his response to the defendants filing an emergency motion to take down the video, Reyes blamed his lawyer, Gregory E. Coolis, for the mix-up and refused to take responsibility for his actions. Coolis then asked to be removed from the case with Reyes. Reyes' new motion claims that his previously filed notice of appeal was timely filed, but misfiled due to an administrative error on behalf of the clerk's office. Reyes claimed that his representative filed a notice of appeal on February 12, 2025, within the 30-day window for appeal, as the case was dismissed on January 14, 2025, and it somehow was filed as an amended complaint. The YouTuber confirmed the error on February 19, 2025, and the notice of appeal was filed on February 19, 2025, correcting the record. Because the notice was filed outside of the 30-day period for the appeal, Reyes was ordered by the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals to explain why they'd have jurisdiction over the appeal. Reyes is now seeking an extension of time on the original appeal because of the misfiling, so the Court of Appeals will be able to take his case. He's claiming that since it was an inadvertent error, and he should not be held accountable for the error, and is asking the judge in his original case to grant the extension to fix things. He filed a response to the Court of Appeals on March 24, 2025, to explain the error. In the current filing, he included copies of the response to the Court of Appeals and his receipt date February 12, 2025, for the appeal/docketing fee. We noted in our coverage how strange the listing for amended complaint was when it was filed back in February, and noted that he had filed outside of the 30 days when his appeal was posted. This filing attempts to explain those filings. There's been no response from the court as of Sunday morning.
Delete Laws continues attack on military veterans. the controversial Jose "Chili" de Castro live-streamed while driving his minivan again on Monday afternoon, continuing his attack on veterans and promoting a video premiere he had set for later in the afternoon on a traffic stop involving a 15-year-old runaway in New Mexico. In that premiere, de Castro came across a scene where Albuquerque police were in search of the girl, who police said stole her parents' car and fled. During the live stream, de Castro implied abuse of the girl as the factor in her decision to run away. From our brief skimming of his audit, de Castro focused on his standard routine of asking about the Constitution and if handcuffs were always torture. He did add his new idea, that military veterans should never be allowed to be police as they were trained to kill the enemy. In de Castro's Saturday livestream, he celebrated the unaliving rate of both police and military veterans, laughing and becoming overjoyed at the thought of both groups burning in hell for the supposed injustices they did that forced them to make the decision to end their own lives. De Castro continued the theme on Monday, this time claiming that when I'm in power he'd ban all participation of military veterans in the police force. He implied that veterans are too dangerous to be police officers due to their previous training and an all-out ban was necessary. Announcing that he needed to get together with the men that we know as Chili's Angels, Thomas Letzo Tvio Prowatsky and Matthew Brick Jonesy Jones, de Castro wanted a meeting to determine when and where he'd release the rest of the footage he shot while visiting both men in New Mexico earlier in the month. De Castro decried the current state of the United States, where he said that ICE agents were plucking random people off the streets. He went into his standard lines about the supposed 30,000 new ICE agents that would be hired by President Trump in the near future and how they'd become a permanent part of law enforcement agencies. Updating his board game and Get People Out of Jail project, he said that he expected the jail project to be done today but did not announce a URL or anything else about it. As for the Constitution Headquarters board game, he blamed delays on having to work with others and said that it should be ready for release by the end of the week. De Castro also plugged his new overnight rest compliance notice that is expected to be available on his website tomorrow. The YouTuber was not clear if the new product was a paid or free download but stated that it could be used in conjunction with the iOverlander app to show police that it was legal to sleep in vehicles. The YouTuber ended his video by promoting his upcoming premiere and by announcing that he will soon open a new TikTok account, where he'll be teaching lessons to go with his Constitution Headquarters board game.
Will Lane Myers' fundraising abilities end on Tuesday? As predicted, the rise of the Lane Myers fundraising empire ended, at least briefly, on Friday as Myers effectively went dark on social media after a disastrous hearing to change his release conditions reminded the YouTuber that everything he says and does while in jail can and will be used against him. For the past week, Myers had been holding daily live streams from jail that aired on Josh Gray's This Is a Public Service YouTube channel. While Myers objects to the use of the term friend to describe Gray, preferring versions of media outlet to describe Gray's work and not the person, Gray is as close to a friend as Myers has had since his incarceration. Myers is in jail because he refused to stop contacting a person who has a no-contact order against him. She sought it after he blamed her for the firing of his wife from her job last year and started to publicly showcase her contact information for his followers to see. Defenders of Myers claim that Myers is a journalist, and his continued contact of the victim is part of his job. He contends that posting her information to his 15,000 YouTube followers is not harassment, as it's simply putting public information out there, and she has no real rights against unwanted public contact, as she's a public employee. Myers had a very frustrating week as he was allowed to stream from jail due to the jail's lack of a live streaming policy. While the jail prohibits three-way calling, where Myers could be connected to multiple people via telephone, it did not specifically state that he could not live stream to his dozens of followers on Gray's channel. Prosecutors were alerted to his live streams and were reviewing all of his communications for a hearing to be held on Tuesday to see if his communications privileges would be restricted following Myers picking up more charges based off of his live streams. Since Friday, Myers has gone dark on social media. Gray posted a single item on his This Is a Public Service channel asking Myers supporters to stop leaving him voicemails while in jail. The message also calls upon his fans to stop contacting his victim. while Myers has not carried out his previous threat to fire his attorney, accept a plea deal for his release, and take down his YouTube channel. The threats still linger as Myers enters a new phase of his incarceration. As expected, without new communications from Myers, his fundraising ability has effectively ended. Myers took in $30 in new donations for Saturday, then blanked on Sunday. Christopher, Denver Metro Audits, Cordova, took Saturday with a $65 take, while Sean Paul, Long Island Audit, Reyes took Sunday with a $200 take. No other donations were observed for either day. We've seen a decline like this before, as Craig Hendry apparently lost his ability to communicate with his followers in early January. Hendry had been successfully directed his fans to come to hearings on his behalf and, more importantly, fundraise through recorded calls from jail that were released to his YouTube channel. Hendry is still in second place for the year in overall tally, even though he hasn't had a donation since January from donations that came in after his last jail address. But even with 4 times the following Myers has, Hendry has not been able to sustain interest in his cause since communications have been cut off. We fully expect Myers' fundraising decline to continue if his ability to communicate with his followers is not restored on Tuesday. Like Hendry, who is currently jailed for harassment and stalking charges against public servants in Indiana, Myers simply does have support in place to help him with basics, commissary calls, lawyers' fees, let alone bigger picture items that don't go away in jail, house payment, grocery for his dog and wife, car payments, etc. Without this in place, it is paramount to his survival that he's able to fundraise off his supporters. He can't do this if he can't communicate with them, and Tuesday's hearing will surely determine where the Lane Myers movement goes until his trial concludes.
Journalism in crisis. Both ReallyCoolSite.org's daily newspaper and our daily newscasts are funded by your continuing donations and what we make from our YouTube AdSense revenue each month. If you'd like to contribute to help us keep the lights on, eating, keeping the cats fed, and writing new stories to feature on both the newspaper and newscast each day, we do have a GoFundMe displayed on the screen. As real American and true protector of the First Amendment, Lane Myers has made multiple threats to sue us in recent days. Portions of all donations may also go towards fighting any possible future lawsuits. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch our entire videos, like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in.
A really cool thank you for 5,000 YouTube subscribers. And we're back. I know. That's only 3 stories for the day. Welp, we're going to give the 4th slot over to human slave Jim Finch, who has a couple of words to say about a recent milestone. A year ago, we were in a different place. Things had fallen to the point at the channel we were at that the only time anyone was having any fun at all were nights that the channel owner was not appearing on the air. Hours and hours of watching videos devoted to car crashes and cute animals were not what any of us had signed up for, and were simply torture for all of us on the air. There was a feeling of deliberate punishment for the on-air crew and our fans, as the fans were rejecting the talents of the host of that channel and his self-centered and often embarrassing antics. Behind the scenes, things were also a mess. I had quit the show and come back for the Friday night shows, the ones without the host's involvement, after having definitive proof that the host was not who he seemed to be over the fall and winter of 2023. I went back as I was there for my friends, I was there for the show, but in no way was I there for the man who put it all together. Sadly, there were things in my own world that very firmly kept me connected to the man, which would clear up later in the year after we made the decision to move away from him, his channel, and the world that he had created, which by then was leaning more towards fantasy than reality. Much easier. When Shuggy and Irish Demon made their revelations about him, his show, his channel, and his mythical world ended. For that, despite my problems with Shuggy over the year and later revelations about Irish Demon, I will always be grateful. Hank, Pope Phil too, and I had already spun off to do the Karen Reed murder trial coverage on our own. We quickly moved it to my personal YouTube channel and had tremendous success with it as the trial drug on over the summer. While we had her, Verbo Boss was an excellent partner on my now-defunct daily news show, and we had a ton of support for financial backers who still support us to this day. Not naming names, but you know who you are, and I'm forever in your debt. Our evening shows eventually went nightly with a rotating cast joining us, with Hank, Pope, Verbo, Rose, Pants, Touche, Gia, NCR News, and even unofficial team member Parson bringing excellent talents and teamwork to our growing little channel. NCR got us over the hump towards level 1 monetization. All of our fans took us to level 2, and right now, as there's a bit over 5,000 of you watching our shows, listening to the news, donating your time and money, and hopefully having a good time with us all I can say is thank you. We're still a tiny blip in the YouTube ecosystem. We hope to double our current numbers to make the channel self-sufficient in the next year. While I may have to take on a job to keep things moving, our commitment to providing you the never-ending news, fun, and a safe hangout to relax and talk about stupid people is unwavering. You have a lot of choices about what you do on YouTube, and we'll be forever thankful that you chose our channel to be part of your life each day. Thank you so much, and here's looking forward to the future.